The grand hall of the Galactic Council stretched out like a massive cathedral made of crystal and light. Ambassador Hyunwoo Kim walked through the center aisle, his black diplomatic uniform pressed and perfect. Behind him followed Admiral Taemin Park and Dr. So-Young Lee, representing the best of humanity. Above them, thousands of alien beings watched from floating platforms. The Velthari looked down with their 6 arms crossed, their blue skin shimmering in the artificial light. The Corvani delegates sat perfectly still, their metallic bodies gleaming like polished silver. Dozens of other species filled the space, all waiting to see what would happen to the humans. Hyunwoo had practiced his speech 100 times. He believed this moment would change everything for Earth and its 12 colony worlds. After 50 years of waiting, humanity would finally join the Galactic Council. They would have access to advanced technology, trade routes, and protection under galactic law. The council speaker, Velthar Kess, stood at the center podium. Her voice echoed through the hall without any need for amplification. We have reviewed Earth's application for membership in the Galactic Council. We have studied your species for decades. We have watched your wars, your conflicts, and your expansion into space. Hyunwoo felt his heart beating faster. This was it, the moment that would secure humanity's future among the stars. The decision is final, Velthar continued. Humanity is rejected for membership in the Galactic Council. The words hit Hyunwoo like a physical blow. He heard So-Young gasp behind him. Taemin remained perfectly still, but his hands clenched into fists. Your species is too primitive, the speaker explained. You wage war against your own kind. You colonize worlds without permission from existing governments. You develop weapons of mass destruction and use them against civilian populations. You are too violent, too unpredictable, and too dangerous to be trusted with membership in this council. A Corvani representative stood up. Humanity has shown no capacity for peaceful coexistence. In the past century alone, they have fought 12 colonial wars. They have destroyed entire cities with nuclear weapons. They cannot be trusted. Another voice joined in, this one from a Velthari admiral. Their military tactics are barbaric. They use chemical weapons, biological warfare, and targeted assassination. These are not the methods of a civilized species. Hyunwoo stepped forward. Honored speaker, if I may respond to these charges? You may not, Velthar said coldly. The decision has been made, but we are not finished. The hall grew even quieter. Hyunwoo felt ice forming in his stomach. Humanity will be placed under quarantine, the speaker announced. You are forbidden from expanding beyond your current 12 colony worlds. Any human vessel found outside the Terran exclusion zone will be destroyed without warning. This quarantine will remain in effect until the Council determines that humanity has evolved beyond its current primitive state. The alien delegates began to murmur among themselves. Some seemed pleased. Others appeared uncomfortable with the harsh sentence. Admiral Taemin stepped forward. You cannot imprison an entire species based on fear and prejudice. We can and we will, replied a Corvani commander. Your species poses a threat to galactic stability. The quarantine protects everyone, including yourselves. Dr. So-Young spoke for the first time. What exactly would it take for humanity to earn membership? What standards must we meet? Velthar looked down at her with something that might have been pity. That is not for your generation to worry about. Perhaps in a few centuries, when you have learned to control your violent impulses, the Council will reconsider. The session was over. Guards, tall humanoid beings in silver armor, escorted the human delegation out of the hall. As they walked, Hyunwoo could hear laughter from some of the alien observers. Others watched in uncomfortable silence. Back on their ship, the 3 humans sat in stunned quiet. The vessel slowly pulled away from Nexus Prime, the Council's capital world. Through the viewing port, they could see the massive space station shrinking into the distance. 50 years of diplomatic effort, Hyunwoo said quietly. 50 years of trying to prove we belong among the civilized species of the galaxy. And they reject us like we're animals. Taemin poured himself a drink from the ship's bar. Maybe we are too violent for them. Maybe that's not necessarily a bad thing. What do you mean? So-Young asked. I mean, maybe they're right about us, but wrong about what that means, the Admiral replied. They see violence and assume we're primitive. But violence can also mean strength. It can mean the will to fight for what's right. So-Young shook her head. Violence got us into this situation. More violence won't get us out, won't it? Taemin asked. They're not rejecting us because we're weak. They're rejecting us because they're afraid of what we might become if we had access to their technology and resources. The journey back to Earth took 2 weeks. During that time, news of the rejection spread throughout human space. Protests broke out on Earth and the colony worlds. Some demanded immediate military action against the Council. Others called for complete isolation from galactic affairs. President Myung-Jin Kang called an emergency session of the Earth Assembly. Representatives from all 12 colony worlds attended via hologram. The great dome of the assembly hall was packed with legislators, military officers, and journalists. Citizens of Earth and the colonies, President Kang began. We face a choice that will determine the future of our species. The Galactic Council has not only rejected our membership, but has imprisoned us within our current borders. We can accept this judgment, or we can reject it. Dong Hyun-yu, leader of the Isolation Party, stood up. We should accept the quarantine. We have enough worlds to support our population for centuries. Why risk war with superior alien forces? Taemin, now back on Earth, disagreed. The quarantine isn't temporary. It's permanent. They want to keep us locked up until we become something we're not, until we stop being human. So Young offered a third option. We need time to think and plan. We should appear to accept the quarantine while secretly preparing for the day we can break free. The debate continued for hours. Representatives argued about military spending, diplomatic options, and the risks of defying the Council. Some worried about the safety of human colonies if war broke out. Others feared that accepting the quarantine would doom humanity to permanent second-class status. In the end, President Kang made the decision. We will comply with the quarantine publicly, but privately we will prepare. We will research, we will plan, and we will build. The day will come when humanity takes its rightful place among the stars, with or without the Council's permission. Admiral Taemin smiled for the first time since the rejection. Dr. So-young nodded thoughtfully. Even Hyun-woo, despite his disappointment, felt a spark of hope. Over the following weeks, Earth quietly began changing. Military budgets increased. Research programs received new funding. The colonies started expanding their industrial capacity. On the surface, everything looked normal. Humanity appeared to be accepting its fate. But beneath the surface, something new was growing. The rejection had done something the Council never expected. Instead of crushing human ambition, it had focused it. Instead of making humanity smaller, it had made them determined to become something greater. Captain Junho Choi, who had witnessed the rejection from the observation deck of his patrol ship, summed up the new mood in a message to his crew. They called us too violent, too primitive, and too dangerous. They were right about one thing. We are dangerous, and someday they're going to find out just how dangerous humans can be when we set our minds to something. The rejection was over. The preparation was just beginning. 58 years had passed since the rejection. The young Captain Junho Choi was now an old man, watching his grandson train at the Earth Naval Academy. The galaxy looked peaceful from Earth's surface, but appearances could be deceiving. Deep beneath the lunar surface, in facilities that officially didn't exist, humanity was building its future. Project Phoenix hummed with activity as Dr. Wu Jin now made the final adjustments to humanity's greatest secret weapon. A faster-than-light drive that didn't depend on the Council's hyperspace beacons. Run the test again, Wu Jin ordered his assistant. The massive drive core spun up, energy readings climbing higher than any Council ship could achieve. Best of all, it was completely undetectable. While alien vessels announced their arrival through the beacon network, human ships would move like ghosts through space. Across the facility, engineer Yoon Ji-hong supervised the construction of colony ships unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. These vessels weren't just transport ships. They were complete civilizations packed into massive hulls. Each ship carried everything needed to build an independent world: factories, genetic banks, terraforming equipment, and defensive systems. In another section, General Kyung-ho Shin tested weapons that the Council considered impossible. The aliens had rules about warfare, guidelines about which technologies were acceptable. Humanity had no intention of following those rules. The quantum disruptors are ready for field testing, reported Lieutenant Mi-young Kang, Shin's top weapons specialist. They'll cut through Council shields like they don't exist. President Ji-hoon Kim, son of the former ambassador, toured the hidden facilities with a mixture of pride and worry. His father had believed in peaceful coexistence with the Council. Ji-hoon had learned a different lesson from the rejection. Sometimes peace was only possible after you'd proven you couldn't be pushed around. "How long until we're ready?" he asked Admiral Hyejin Park, daughter of the old Admiral Taemin. Like her father, she believed in the power of strong action. "Another 5 years for full deployment," she replied. "We've already established 4 secret colonies beyond the exclusion zone. The Council hasn't noticed yet. Those colonies represented humanity's boldest move yet. New Busan was a fortress world, heavily defended and ready for war. Haven was an agricultural paradise that could feed millions. Forge was an industrial complex that turned out ships and weapons around the clock. Academy was where humanity trained its best and brightest for the challenges ahead. The colonies had been established using new technology that made them invisible to Council sensors. Ships arrived through unmarked jump points, built their cities underground, and maintained complete communication silence except for emergency signals. Dr. Min-Soo Lee, who had worked with So Young before her death, led the terraforming efforts on these new worlds. His techniques could transform a barren rock into a garden world in just 10 years. More importantly, they could do it without the massive energy signatures that Council terraforming required. "The beauty of human engineering," he explained to a group of colonists, "is that we don't need to follow their rules. We make our own. But secrets have a way of revealing themselves, especially in space where hiding is almost impossible." The Council patrol ship Harmony's Light, commanded by Captain Velmora Kess, daughter of the former speaker, was conducting a routine inspection of the border regions when her sensors picked up something unusual. "Captain," her science officer reported, "I'm detecting agricultural signatures from the Haven system. But according to our records, that system is uninhabited." Velmora frowned. The Haven system was well outside the human exclusion zone. If there really was a colony there, it could only be human. "Set course for Haven, maximum stealth." What she found there shocked her. A thriving human colony with over 1 million inhabitants. Cities stretched across 3 continents. Orbital stations processed goods and materials. Defensive satellites surrounded the planet like a protective shell. "This is impossible," she whispered. "How long has this been here?" Her communications officer ran the analysis. Based on the development patterns, at least 15 years. Maybe 20 years. Humanity had been violating the quarantine for 2 decades, and the Council never knew. Velmora realized this changed everything. If humans could build one secret colony, they could build dozens. She was about to order a transmission to Council headquarters when space around her ship suddenly filled with energy weapons fire. The human vessel Defiance, under Captain Sang-wook Choi, had been monitoring Council traffic near Haven for months. "Council ship. You are in violation of human territorial space," Sang-wook transmitted. "Leave immediately or be destroyed." Velmora activated her ship's shields. "This is a Council vessel on official business. You have no authority here." "I have all the authority I need," Sang-wook replied. His ship's weapons powered up to maximum. The Defiance was smaller than the Council ship, but it was faster and equipped with those impossible quantum disruptors. The battle lasted only minutes. Council shields, designed to stop conventional energy weapons, offered no protection against quantum disruption technology. The Harmony's Light broke apart in a cascade of explosions. There were no survivors. When the patrol ship failed to report back, the Council grew suspicious. A full investigation fleet was dispatched to search the border regions. What they found horrified them. 4 human colonies, millions of people, industrial facilities capable of supporting a major war effort. Defensive fleets using technology that shouldn't exist. Humanity hadn't just violated the quarantine. They had been preparing for war. The evidence was presented to the full Council in emergency session. Speaker Velthar Kess, older now but still formidable, listened to the reports with growing anger. "They have been lying to us for decades," she said. "While pretending to accept our judgment, they have been building an invasion force." The Corvani representative was even more direct. "This proves we were right about humans. They cannot be trusted. They must be stopped before they spread further." The Council's response was swift. An ultimatum was transmitted to Earth. Abandon all illegal colonies within 1 solar year, or face corrective measures from the combined fleets of the Galactic Council. President Ji-hoon Kim received the message in his office overlooking the Pacific Ocean. He read it twice, then called his military advisors. How long would it take to evacuate the colonies? He asked Admiral Hyejin Park. 6 months if we started immediately, she replied. But that would mean abandoning everything we've built. 15 million colonists would have to leave their homes. And if we refuse? War, said General Wanshik Jiang, Earth's top military commander. Total war against the Council. Ji-hoon looked out at the ocean, thinking about his father and the day of the rejection. Hyun-woo Kim had believed in diplomacy, in finding peaceful solutions. But diplomacy had failed. The Council had made their position clear. Humanity would remain in its cage forever. Send a message to all human worlds, Ji-hoon ordered. Full military alert! Begin evacuation of non-essential personnel from the colonies, and prepare to broadcast the Declaration of Human Sovereignty. The declaration was broadcast simultaneously from Earth and all 4 secret colonies. Ji-hoon Kim stood before cameras that would carry his words across human space and, eventually, to the Council itself. Citizens of Earth and the colonies, he began. For 58 years we have lived under the arbitrary restrictions imposed by the Galactic Council. They rejected us based on fear and prejudice. They imprisoned us within boundaries they drew without our consent. Today we reject their authority. He paused, letting the words sink in. Humanity claims its right to the stars. We will expand where we choose. We will build what we need. We will defend what is ours. The Council may call this rebellion. We call it freedom. The transmission ended. Across human space, military fleets began moving to defensive positions. The hidden colonies activated their full defensive arrays. Weapons that had been tested in secret were moved to the front lines. In the Council chambers on Nexus Prime, the alien delegates watched the broadcast with a mixture of shock and outrage. Humanity hadn't just refused the ultimatum. They had declared independence from the Galactic Order itself. Mobilize the fleets, ordered Speaker Kess. If they want war, we will give them war. The hidden years were over. The real test was about to begin. The Council's war fleet was the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. 3,000 ships from a dozen different species, led by Corvani Admiral Thexara in the massive dreadnought Inevitable Justice. They expected to crush human resistance in a matter of weeks. Admiral Thexara had studied the human colonies carefully. On paper, the rebellion should have been impossible. Humanity had perhaps 100 ships total, scattered across 4 worlds. The Council fleet outnumbered them 30-1 and possessed technology centuries more advanced. These humans are clever, Admiral Thexara told his staff as the fleet approached the new Busan system. They have managed to hide their colonies and develop some new weapons. But cleverness cannot overcome such overwhelming force. What the Admiral didn't know was that Admiral Hai-Jin Park had been studying Council tactics for decades. She understood how alien military minds worked. They believed in massive displays of force, direct confrontation, and technological superiority. They had rules about warfare, codes of honor that limited their actions. Humans had no such limitations. The Battle of New Busan began when the Council fleet dropped out of hyperspace expecting to find a few orbital defenses and maybe 20 human ships. Instead, they found themselves surrounded by minefields, automated weapons platforms, and a defensive fleet of 70 vessels using technology that made no sense. Commander Yeon-soo Kim commanded the human defense. She had grown up on New Busan, helping to build the colony from nothing. This was her home, and she would not let it fall. All ships remember the plan, she transmitted. Hit and run. Never stand still. Make them chase us through the mines. The human ships scattered in all directions as the Council fleet moved in. Conventional tactics would have called for a defensive formation, but Commander Kim had learned from studying Earth's military history. Sometimes the best defense was to make your enemy fight on your terms. The first Council ship to die was the cruiser Golden Path. It struck a human mind that shouldn't have been powerful enough to damage its shields. But human minds didn't use conventional explosives. They used quantum disruptors that tore holes in reality itself. Impossible, Admiral Thexara muttered as his sensors showed the cruiser breaking apart. Those readings make no sense. More ships died as they pushed deeper into the system. Human vessels appeared out of nowhere, fired their impossible weapons, and vanished before return fire could reach them. The Council's advanced sensors couldn't track ships that used human stealth technology. Captain Mi-young Kang led a squadron of human fighters on a suicide run against the Inevitable Justice. Her ships were tiny compared to the massive dreadnought, but they carried weapons that could punch through any defense. Remember, she told her pilots, we're not trying to destroy that ship. We just need to hurt it badly enough to make them think twice. The attack succeeded beyond her wildest hopes. Human quantum torpedoes, fired from ships too small to be considered threats, tore massive holes in the dreadnought's hull. Admiral Thexara found himself fighting fires on 16 decks while his ship's computer systems crashed and rebooted. But the real shock came when the Council tried to retreat. Human ships had been quietly moving through space using their undetectable drive systems. When the alien fleet tried to pull back, they found their escape routes blocked. General Wanshik Jiang watched the battle from his command center on Earth. The humans were winning, but it was costing them. They lost 12 ships at New Busan, including Commander Kim's flagship. She died ramming her vessel into a Corvani battlecruiser, taking both ships down in a ball of nuclear fire. She saved the colony, General Jiang told President Ji-hoon Kim. But we can't fight battles like this forever. We need to change our strategy. The new strategy was pure human thinking. If you can't win a fair fight, don't fight fair. Instead of defending fixed positions, human forces began attacking Council supply lines, communication networks, and industrial facilities. Captain Wan Ho Lee led the famous Forge raids. His squadron appeared in 7 different Council systems over 2 weeks, destroying shipyards, supply depots, and military bases. Each attack lasted only hours, but the cumulative damage was devastating. They're fighting like pirates, complained a Velthari admiral after losing his 3rd supply convoy in a month. Pirates can be reasoned with, replied his Corvani counterpart. These humans seem determined to destroy everything we've built. The war's turning point came at the siege of Academy. The Council discovered the location of humanity's training center and sent a massive fleet to capture it. They wanted human scientists alive, hoping to learn the secrets of the impossible technology. Director Seok Jin Lee had anticipated this possibility. As Council forces surrounded the planet, he activated Academy's final defense, a weapon that turned the entire world into a bomb. If we can't have our knowledge, he transmitted to the approaching fleet, then nobody can. The explosion was visible from 3 star systems away. The Council fleet lost 40 ships to the blast wave. More importantly, they lost any hope of understanding how human technology worked. These beings are insane, Admiral Thexara reported to the Council. They would rather destroy everything than surrender. What the Admiral didn't understand was that humans had been preparing for this war their entire lives. Every human child learned about the rejection, about the quarantine, about the day their species was told they weren't good enough. They had grown up knowing this fight was coming. The war spread beyond the border regions. Human raids reached deep into Council territory. The Corvani homeworld itself came under attack when Captain Do Hyun Song led his stealth squadron through their defenses. They didn't try to conquer Corva Prime, but they did destroy the primary shipyards where the Council built its largest vessels. How is this possible? Speaker Velthar Kess demanded. Our intelligence report said humans had 100 ships. We've destroyed more than that already, and they keep coming. The truth was that human industrial capacity had been hidden across dozens of systems. Every asteroid mining station was also a weapons factory. Every cargo freighter could be converted to carry troops and supplies. Every human colony was a potential military base. Dr. Jin Ho Park, working from a secret laboratory in the asteroid belt, perfected the quantum disruptor technology that made human weapons so devastating. His breakthrough came from studying Council shield frequencies and finding the exact resonance needed to tear them apart. The aliens think their shields make them invincible, he explained to his research team. But every shield has a frequency. Find the right frequency, and you can unravel the entire defensive matrix. The technology spread throughout human space faster than the Council could adapt. Ships that had been invulnerable to human weapons suddenly found themselves defenseless. Battles that should have been easy victories for the Council turned into disasters. Meanwhile, humanity found unexpected allies. The Rathi, insectoid beings who had been enslaved by the Council for centuries, saw an opportunity for freedom. Their mining expertise helped humanity build weapons faster than ever before. The Quellan, nomadic traders who lived in massive traveling ships, were tired of Council regulations that limited their movement. They provided intelligence about Council fleet movements and safe passage through dangerous regions of space. Most surprising of all, some Veltari began switching sides. General Kesavan, a military leader who had grown disgusted with the Council's treatment of younger species, contacted human forces through secret channels. The Council has become corrupt, he transmitted. They care more about maintaining power than protecting the galaxy. Perhaps it is time for new leadership. The Alliance changed everything. Instead of fighting alone against overwhelming odds, humanity found itself leading a coalition of species seeking freedom from Council control. The war was no longer about human expansion. It had become a revolution. Admiral Hyejin Park stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Defiant Earth, as reports came in from across the galaxy. Human forces had taken 17 Council worlds. Allied species were joining the rebellion in increasing numbers. The Council's once mighty fleet was scattered and demoralized. "Ma'am," her communications officer reported, "we're receiving surrender requests from 3 more Council systems. They want to join the Alliance," Hyejin smiled. The scared species that had once cowered before the Council were finding their courage. Humanity hadn't just started a war. They had started a revolution that was spreading across the galaxy like wildfire. "Send confirmation to all Alliance forces," she ordered. "Phase 2 is complete. Begin preparations for the march on Nexus Prime." The war was far from over, but the momentum had shifted. The Council was no longer fighting to crush a human rebellion. They were fighting to save themselves from the forces they had awakened. 22 years had passed since the first shots were fired at New Busan. What began as a simple human rebellion had transformed into a galactic civil war that touched every corner of the galaxy. The Terran Empire now controlled over 200 star systems, and its fleets numbered in the thousands. High Speaker Talavin, who had replaced the deceased Velthar Kess, stood before the Council Emergency Assembly. The Great Hall, once filled with confident alien delegates, now held only representatives from a few dozen loyal worlds. "The human virus spreads," he declared, his voice filled with desperation. "They have corrupted entire species with their savage philosophy. They must be completely eradicated or the galaxy will never know peace again." The remaining Council members nodded gravely. The humans had done more than win military victories. They had shattered the entire galactic order. Centuries of careful diplomacy and established hierarchy were crumbling as species after species joined the human cause. On Earth, Empress Sun Hee-yoon stood before the Imperial Senate in the newly constructed Crystal Palace. She was the first person in human history to hold the title of Empress. Elected by popular vote across all human worlds, citizens of the Terran Empire, she began, her voice broadcast to billions of humans across space. "We face the greatest test our species has ever known. The Council has declared total war. They seek not our surrender but our extinction. We will show them the difference between human determination and alien desperation." Supreme Admiral Jae-sung Kim, grandson of the former president, commanded the largest military force in galactic history. His flagship, the Unconquerable, led a fleet of 5,000 vessels as they prepared for the final assault on Council territory. "All fleet commanders," he transmitted, "remember that we fight not just for conquest, but for the right of every species to determine its own destiny. The Council claims to represent galactic civilization. We will show them what real civilization looks like." The liberation campaigns began with the assault on the Rati homeworld. General Wan Ho Lee led the ground forces while Admiral Do Hyun Song provided orbital support. The planet had been enslaved for over 3 centuries. Its population forced to work in dangerous mining operations that served Council interests. "The chains are broken," General Lee announced as his forces secured the capital city. Over 1 billion Rathi wept with joy as human soldiers destroyed the slave control centers. Within hours, Rathi engineers were working alongside their human liberators to build new weapons and ships. The Quellan exodus followed weeks later. Admiral Hyejin Park escorted the nomadic fleet to sanctuary in human space, bringing with her the finest shipbuilders in the galaxy. Their technology merged with human engineering to create vessels that were both beautiful and deadly. But the most significant victory came from an unexpected source. The Velthari Civil War began when Prince Keswan openly declared his support for human ideals of freedom and self-determination. Half of the Velthari Empire rose in rebellion against the Council loyalists. "My people have ruled through fear and oppression for too long," the prince declared. "The humans have shown us a better way, a way where strength serves justice instead of tyranny." The Civil War split the Council's most powerful member down the middle. Ancient Velthari battleships fought against each other in the heart of their territory. Human forces provided support where they could, but mostly they simply watched as the alien empire tore itself apart. Meanwhile, human technology reached heights that would have seemed impossible just decades before. Dr. Young Soo Nam perfected terraforming techniques that could transform barren worlds into gardens in just 5 years. Entire star systems were reshaped to support human colonies. General Bo Young Choi pioneered new assault tactics that combined human ground forces with orbital bombardment and psychological warfare. Council worlds surrendered rather than face the terrifying efficiency of human military doctrine. The most dramatic breakthrough came from the research facilities orbiting Jupiter. Human scientists, working with liberated alien researchers, developed technology that could manipulate stars themselves. The first test involved turning a dying red giant into a stable yellow star, bringing life to an entire system that had been barren for millions of years. "We're not just conquering the galaxy," Dr. Nam explained to a gathering of scientists. "We're rebuilding it according to human principles. Every world we take becomes better than it was under Council rule." The Council's response grew increasingly desperate. They deployed biological weapons against human colonies, only to watch in horror as human medical technology neutralized the attacks within days. They tried using advanced AI systems to coordinate their fleets, but human hackers turned the artificial minds against their creators. Most shocking of all, they attempted to destroy human morale by targeting Earth itself. A massive council fleet led by Admiral Corv Thrawn in the super dreadnought Final Judgment approached the human homeworld with a weapon designed to destabilize the sun. "If we cannot defeat them," the Admiral transmitted to his fleet, "we will ensure they cannot defeat anyone else." The weapon was based on technology the Council had hidden for millennia, capable of triggering a solar collapse that would destroy everything in the system. They had never used it before because the moral implications were too terrible to contemplate. Agent Soo Jin Yoon, working deep undercover within Council intelligence, discovered the plan with just hours to spare. She had spent 15 years building her cover identity as a loyal alien citizen. Now she faced a choice between maintaining her cover and saving her homeworld. The choice was easy. She infiltrated the weapon control facility on Final Judgment and began sabotaging the targeting systems. Instead of destroying Earth's sun, the weapon would turn on the Council fleet itself. "All human forces," she transmitted on an emergency frequency. "This is Agent Starlight. The Sun Killer is compromised. Clear the system immediately." The explosion when the weapon fired was visible from neighboring star systems. The Council's last great fleet, over 800 ships, died in an expanding ball of stellar fire. Admiral Corv Thrawn's final transmission was a single word: impossible. Agent Yoon died in the explosion, but her sacrifice saved billions of human lives. More importantly, it broke the Council's will to fight. They had thrown everything at the humans and failed. Their superweapons had turned against them. Their allies had abandoned them. Their greatest military minds lay dead in the wreckage of their fleets. The siege of Nexus Prime lasted 3 standard years. Fleet Admiral Chan Woo Kim surrounded the Council's capital world with the most powerful military force ever assembled. 2 million ships from dozens of species, all united under human leadership. "We could destroy this world in minutes," he transmitted to the Council leadership. "But that's not who we are. Surrender now and we guarantee the safety of every being on that planet." High Speaker Thalavan knew the war was over. The Council had lost everything: their fleets, their allies, their technological advantages, and most importantly, their moral authority. Species throughout the galaxy were embracing human ideals of freedom and self-determination. "We surrender," he transmitted, his voice barely audible. "The Galactic Council yields to the Terran Empire." The formal surrender ceremony took place in the same crystal hall where humanity had been rejected over 80 years before. Emperor Jae-sung Kim, now wearing the crown of the Terran Empire, stood where his grandfather had once been humiliated. "The age of the Council is over," he declared. "The age of the Empire begins. But unlike those who came before us, we will rule through strength and justice, not fear and oppression." Admiral Chan Woo Kim stood beside his emperor as the defeated Council representatives signed the surrender documents. The old Galactic Council was dissolved. In its place would rise the Imperial Senate, where all species would have representation but humanity would provide leadership. Your grandfather would be proud, the admiral said quietly. I hope so, Jae-sung replied. But this is just the beginning. Now we have to prove we're worthy of the power we've claimed. The war was over, but the real challenge was just beginning. How do you rule a galaxy without becoming the very thing you fought against? How do you maintain the ideals that made you strong while wielding the power of an empire? Those were questions for the next generation to answer. For now, it was enough that humanity had proven the Council wrong about one thing. They weren't too primitive to join galactic civilization. They were advanced enough to rebuild it entirely. 61 years had passed since the fall of the Galactic Council. Emperor Jae-sung Kim stood in the ruins of the old council chambers on Nexus Prime, now renamed Unity Station. The crystal walls had been replaced with steel and glass, decorated with artwork from 100 different worlds. The Terran Empire spanned 50,000 star systems and included over 300 species. Chancellor Kyung-mi Lee walked beside the Emperor as they toured the renovated station. She had spent decades transforming the galaxy's government from military occupation to civilian rule. The transition hadn't been easy, but it had been successful. The morning briefing shows 17 new species requesting membership in the Empire, she reported. 3 more sectors have completed their infrastructure upgrades. The Grand Hyperway project is ahead of schedule. Jae-sung nodded approvingly. The Grand Hyperway was humanity's greatest engineering project, a network of hyperspace tunnels connecting every major world in the Empire. Unlike the old Council's beacon system, which could be controlled or shut down by a central authority, the Hyperway was decentralized and impossible to disrupt. What about the frontier reports? He asked. Admiral Yu Jin-song's Deep Space Fleet has made contact with 3 more civilizations beyond the galactic rim. All seem peaceful so far. Dr. Se-Ram Lee's team believes they may have found evidence of interdimensional travel. The Emperor smiled. Even after conquering their own galaxy, humans were still pushing boundaries, still exploring, still refusing to be contained. Some things never changed. In the shipyards orbiting Saturn, terraforming coordinator Min-ho Shin supervised the construction of humanity's most ambitious project yet. Complete ring world around the star Kepler 438. The artificial world would have a surface area equivalent to 3 million Earths and could support 1 trillion inhabitants. The engineering challenges are enormous, he explained, to a group of visiting alien dignitaries, but humans specialize in doing the impossible. That's how we got here in the first place. The visitors, representatives from species that had recently joined the Empire, watched in amazement as massive construction ships moved sections of the ring into place. The scale was beyond anything their civilizations had ever attempted. Your species builds as if you expect to live forever, observed Ambassador Veltarin, a Velthari diplomat whose people now served loyally in the imperial government. We do, Min-ho replied, not individually, but as a civilization. Everything we build is meant to last for generations we'll never meet. On Earth, historian Yoon Young Park worked in the vast imperial archives, preserving the story of humanity's rise. She had interviewed thousands of veterans from the war years, collecting their memories before they were lost forever. Future generations need to understand how we got here, she explained to her research team, not just the victories and the glory, but the cost. The sacrifices, the mistakes we made along the way. The archive included sealed records of the war crimes committed during the conflict, evidence that not all human actions had been noble or necessary. Some imperial commanders had been too eager to use their new weapons, too quick to resort to violence when diplomacy might have worked. Artist Young-soo Kim created monuments on 1,000 worlds, each one unique to the local culture but carrying the same message. Freedom was won through sacrifice, and eternal vigilance was the price of liberty. His most famous work stood on Unity Station itself, a massive sculpture showing representatives from every species in the Empire standing together. Art isn't just decoration, he told his apprentices. It's how we remember who we are and why we fought. But the new generation faced challenges their parents could never have imagined. Prince Hyunjin Kim, heir to the imperial throne, struggled with the weight of his ancestors' achievements. He had grown up in a galaxy where humanity ruled supreme, where alien species looked to Earth for leadership. How do you follow legends? He asked his tutor, philosopher Tae-young Choi. My grandfather conquered the galaxy. My father built the empire. What's left for me? The hardest task of all, Choi replied. Maintaining what they built while making it better. Power corrupts, Your Highness. Your job is to ensure that humanity doesn't become what we once fought against. The philosopher's words were prophetic. Signs of imperial corruption were already appearing. Some human administrators had grown arrogant with power. Certain colonies had become exploitative rather than cooperative. The military, flush with decades of victory, sometimes solved problems with force when patience might have worked better. Admiral Yu Jin Song, commanding the Deep Space Exploration Fleet, faced the most immediate challenge. Her scouts had detected massive energy signatures from beyond the galactic rim, suggesting the presence of other galactic-scale civilizations. We're not alone, she reported to the Imperial Council. There are other empires out there, possibly as powerful as we are. We need to decide how to approach them. Dr. Seyram Lee's research team had made even more disturbing discoveries. Their interdimensional studies had detected entities that existed outside normal space-time. Beings of enormous power and unclear intentions. We call them the Void Walkers, she explained during a classified briefing. They seem to be attracted to civilizations that develop reality-altering technology. Our quantum weapons may have gotten their attention. Governor Chung Min Park, administrator of the frontier sectors, dealt with more immediate problems. The remnant surviving council loyalists had established hidden bases in the outer systems. They conducted guerrilla attacks against imperial shipping and tried to foment rebellion among recently conquered worlds. They're not a military threat, he reported, but they're a political one. Every attack gives fuel to species that question imperial rule. More concerning was the synthesis movement, a faction of humans who believed their species should merge with artificial intelligence to transcend biological limitations. Led by the brilliant but unstable scientist Dr. Kwan Ho Nam, they conducted illegal experiments in consciousness transfer and machine integration. The flesh is weak, Dr. Nam proclaimed in underground broadcasts. We have conquered the galaxy in our current form. Imagine what we could accomplish if we abandoned these primitive biological bodies. Emperor Jae-sung faced a choice that would define his legacy. The empire was strong but not invulnerable. Internal threats were growing while external challenges loomed on the horizon. How could humanity maintain its dominance while staying true to the ideals that had made them strong? The answer came from an unexpected source. Explorer Captain Min Jung-yoon, leading the first expedition beyond the galactic rim, made contact with the Andromeda Coalition. The coalition was an alliance of thousands of species from the neighboring galaxy, united under principles remarkably similar to those of the Terran Empire. They've been watching us, Captain Yoon reported via quantum transmission. Our war against the Council was visible to them through gravitational wave detectors. They're impressed by our victory but concerned about our methods. The coalition's leader, a being called the Prime Coordinator, sent a message directly to Emperor Jae-sung. Your species has shown great strength in conquest. Now you must show greater strength in governance. The universe is watching to see if humanity will become a force for liberation or oppression. The message arrived as the Empire celebrated the 100th anniversary of the first human victory at New Busan. Parades filled the streets of Earth cities. Veterans, many now ancient, shared their stories with children who had never known anything but imperial rule. Emperor Jae-sung stood before the assembled crowds in the restored Crystal Palace. His words would be broadcast across 50,000 worlds, heard by trillions of beings who looked to humanity for leadership. 100 years ago, we were told we were too violent, too primitive, too unpredictable to join galactic civilization, he began. Our ancestors proved those critics right in some ways and wrong in others. Yes, we were violent when violence was necessary. Yes, we were unpredictable when predictability meant surrender. But we were never too primitive to understand justice. He paused, looking out at the crowd that included humans and aliens standing together. Today, we face new challenges. Other galactic civilizations are watching us. Ancient entities stir in the void between dimensions. Internal divisions threaten our unity. The question is not whether we can meet these challenges. The question is whether we can meet them while remaining true to the principles that brought us this far. The speech was interrupted by urgent reports from the frontier. Long-range sensors had detected massive fleets approaching from intergalactic space. The Andromeda Coalition was coming, but they weren't alone. Other civilizations, some friendly and some hostile, were converging on the Milky Way. Admiral Yu Jin Song received her orders within hours. Prepare for first contact with peer-level galactic powers. The stakes had never been higher. Humanity's next test wouldn't be against a corrupt council or oppressed species. It would be against civilizations as advanced and determined as their own. Emperor Jae-sung returned to his private study after the celebration, looking out at the stars through the palace's great dome. Somewhere out there, fleets were moving that could challenge the empire itself. The easy victories were over. The real test of human civilization was just beginning.